guys. So moving on to our penultimate DC topic here today. We've gotten a while back. It was announced that Spotify and DC Warner Brothers made an exclusive deal to start producing scripted DC Comics content, which I thought was a pretty good idea because I mean, as long as they put a lot of production work into it and like yeah, I always like to use the example of the Star Wars audiobooks because they put a lot more production value into it other than, just someone reading you the story. Like they have if TIE fighters are flying through, they have, TIE fighter sounds. If you're on like a manned bridge of a ship, you hear like beeps and boops in the background. They have ambient sounds and music and, everything like that. And I really enjoy the audiobooks when they do that. I think it just helps you dive into the world a little bit more, makes it a little bit more fun. So I thought this whole idea of DC branching out and making this exclusive deal to actually start producing scripted content like that, there could be an audience for it, and especially I don't know if putting it exclusively on Spotify would be the best thing for them, but I mean, Spotify was willing to pay them for it, so why not make the deal at that point? So I was just more excited about the content actually coming out, but we got our first uh taste or first hint of a little bit of news out of it, and that's David S. Goyer is going to be returning to the Batman franchise in the Batman Spotify audiobook podcast, whatever they're wanting to call it. Which if you're familiar with David Goyer or anything, he was on like the Dark Knight trilogy with Christopher Nolan. Written a bunch of there's a bunch of DC credits like that and everything. So I guess this Batman one is going to be called Batman Unburied. There's really no news about what the plot details are for it, but they just mentioned that they're going to be exploring the dark aspects of Bruce Wayne's psychology. So, and that's pretty
That's
much
interesting.
it. There's really no other news about that. But I mean, he was, like I said, with Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, Man of Steel, BVS. I mean, he's been heavily attached to Batman in some capacity in the DC world for quite some time now, last 10 years or so, if not more. So this is I don't know. I consider this to be some pretty good and exciting news, at least as far as this uh, scripted podcast, thing with this thing that they're doing, this thing that DC is doing. I think this is a good step in the right direction for them because, like I said, I was as long as they were, going to be actually putting some production value into it and like making them like good, not just reading you a comic book or anything like that. Like then I think this could be like a pretty cool little side venture of theirs, a little, new project. So getting someone, you know, may not be a big name like actor kind of guy attached to it, but like getting someone like a behind the scenes person who is this familiar with the franchise attached to it is a pretty good start. What do you guys think?
I like the idea of it. I think it'll be cool, and hopefully it does have that production value like you were talking about with Star Wars, the audiobooks. I don't know. It's interesting that they're doing that, going that direction with it. I would say.
'Cause I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, this stuff used to be big and back in like the radio times,
Exactly.
Back to
Like
that.
back in the what, like the 20s and 30s.
Yeah, like because I always just go back to like the War of the Worlds thing, like when
Yep.
they were people thought that was like real and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I don't think
as
anybody's
long
gonna
as they
think
put
Well,
it's
good
true.
value into it, I think it'd be cool.
well, and those things were huge back then, but they were also the only game in town. Now you have so many other things that you're competing with, and so I'm really curious what the audience for these are. I would think I would be like a huge Batman fan. The Dark Knight trilogy is my favorite. Well, yeah, it's my favorite movie series of all time. So, um, you know, Goyer being kind of one of the architects of that series, this sounds like it would be right up my alley. And while I'm interested in it, I'm not like running out and buying my Spotify subscription so that I have it ready to go day one. I think I'll probably maybe wait and see what the reception is to it.
Mhm.
Um, it's just it's an interesting thing to try. I'm really curious how it will play out, though, what the audience is for it, and if people will go for it.
Yeah, I think this whole project of theirs, their venture into the scripted content, like in podcast, audiobook kind of form, is gonna live and die by the marketing for it. In all honesty, because like they can do, you can do whatever, they can put as much work into it as they want, but it's like you were saying, like who's the target demographic for it and how are you going to make them aware for it? Because obviously this form of content isn't really what is popular right now.
Mm.
So it's going to be, they're definitely going to have to make people aware of it in some way. So it's gonna live and die by the marketing. But at least I think getting someone like Goyer associated with it is definitely,
Step in the right direction.
yeah, it piques my interest for a little more. Because like I said, if as long as these are like high produced, then like I think there could be an audience for it because I appreciate like I said, the Star Wars audiobooks are like the best modern example I have. Like they put a lot of extra like effort to really immerse you in the Star Wars world, and it's not just the voice of someone reading off a page.
Are the Star Wars audiobooks, are those adapted from, like, the novels, or are those original content too?
No, like original content ones, like the
Okay.
ones that are, yeah, not just the like movie adaptation ones, like the ones that are exclusive, like novel series, like Lords of the Sith, like all the ones that were just exclusive book stories. They I haven't listened to every single one of them, but like the
But they were
flawed one,
adapted
like
they were adapted from the novels, right? They weren't originally scripted just for these audio.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. In that
Okay.
sense, yeah, they
So
were
th
they were from the
that's
books.
yeah, so that's where, like, this being scripted and not having any other medium that it's coming out in, not being a comic book, not being a novel, um, and just being solely original content created in this for this medium is odd to me. I mean, like I'm trying to think of what the audience, like, is this for the person, do they, is the expectation that people will get home from work at the end of the night and, have their dinner, and then after dinner they'll, instead of turning on the TV, they'll sit down and listen to the Batman book? Is
Right.
it the feeling that the people will, commuters will listen to this in the car on their way to and from their jobs? I'm just, the audience for this is really intriguing to me.
Yeah, and I think at least as far as I'm concerned, I would only ever really listen to the audiobooks and everything when I was in the car. When I was commuting somewhere, that was
Yeah.
like the prime time for me to do it. Um, and like I mean, if you're sitting in a lot of traffic, I find it like a lot of the times is a lot more enjoyable than listening to the same damn song that you always hear or
Oh,
you've
sure.
heard for the rest of your life.
Back in the day, it would be like families would gather around the radio. They'd all sit there. They'd all listen to it and everything. And I don't think it's going to be anything like that by any means. Like you said, like when it comes to commuting and stuff, it gives you something different to listen to other than just like the same music. So, I mean, I really don't know. It's hard to say, but I just don't think your whole family is going to be sitting down around the radio,
Yeah,
like 1930s style, like tuning in.
right.
So,
And I mean, the other part of this too that that intrigues me is, I mean, Goyer being such a big name. I know he's not a household name the way Chris Nolan is, but he did co-write the Dark Knight and Batman Begins with Chris Nolan, and script those with him. Or no, he didn't script the Dark Knight, I think, but he plotted out the stories with Chris Nolan for them. And he also has a very substantial comic book, bibliography under his belt, and he comes from some very successful comic runs. So for them to take him and not give him a comic series, which, you know could equal hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales, and put him onto something like this, means that they have some faith that this will do well. It's just, how that translates, why they're choosing to put his story in this venue rather than another.
Right. And what I'm more curious about too, like, is because I said this kind of live and die by the marketing, but I think it'll also just how it is produced is still kind of in question to me as well. Because, like I said, um, like the Star Wars audio books, they are just like you were saying, they're just audio versions of the book. I'm wondering
Mhm.
if these are going to be actually more like true scripted audio and not reading off a page, or if it's going to be like multiple like voice actors doing like scripted scenes, like like watching a movie with your eyes closed. I wonder if it's
yeah.
going to be more like that, or if it's going to be like, I imagine that it's going to have to be adapted in the more of an audiobook kind of format. But I don't know. It's interesting because they could go a lot of different ways with it. But I mean, they're going to have like an overall narrator explaining the story, or are you going to be like listening? Are you going to be in Batman's head the whole time? Yeah, like I'm very interested in just how they're going to actually produce them at this point because like I don't know.
Can either of you think of anything that's being produced now that is in the same that's the same type of content? Like I know people are doing, people do their podcasts and whatnot, but I'm trying to think of like a scripted podcast series that's out there. That's
I can't think of anything.
I got nothing.
okay.
No, like that's why this was kind of like surprising they were going to go this route because like we were saying, it kind of makes sense when you're adapting like a book and you're just going to make an audio version for it. Like that all makes sense. Like this is like a new kind of almost just experiment for them to this adapt because they're telling original stories in this kind of unknown format. It's just I mean, I guess there are other ones though, because I mean, Goyer goes on to quote that, like in this article, that he has been a fan of narrative podcasts for some time. So, I mean, I'm sure there's people out there who like are doing a lot of scripted podcasts or whatever in some way. It's just not something that's like
It's not hugely
I'm
popular.
yeah, it's not that like I'm the know all be all of popularity, but like I don't know any of them. I'm obviously not the target demographic for any existing ones out there because I haven't heard of them. So that's why I said like this is going to really live and die by the marketing and how well it's produced and how good the story is too. Because if they market it well and it's a good story and it's produced well, then maybe people who aren't listening to audio, scripted podcasts right now would actually like want to dive deeper into that world because I mean, me being one of them, I aside from audiobooks, I've never really listened to any sort of narrative podcast in like this kind of fashion. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I think we'll just have to wait and see. I'm looking forward to it now. At least with this, we're getting some news about David Goyer being attached to the Batman one. I think that's a good sign. So, no. So, question is, guys, what do you think about this? Did you guys even? I think we did a story about this back when it was first announced. That they were going to be actually producing this stuff on Spotify. Thought it was intriguing then, and I think now that we're getting at least, it's still kind of unclear on how it's going to be produced, but we're at least getting a first look of kind of how seriously they're taking it to some degree. If you're going out of your way to get someone like David Goyer to come in and actually do one of these, it's a step in the right direction. It's definitely someone who's experienced in the Batman lore in a lot of ways, so that excites me. So I'm just hoping that have to wait and see how well these things come out and how they do them. So whatever you guys think about this stuff, though, have you ever heard of any narrative podcasts or anything like that? Are there any that you're listening to that we should check out or anything like that? Let us know down in the comments section below.